Hello, everyone, and welcome to
Hi.
Global GT. Hi.
Hello.
We are here tonight to introduce you our project. I call our, pardon.
Yes.
I am Filomena Pizzulli from GEG Italia. I am the leader of GEG Italia. I am also one of the leader of Global GG. Thank you to all the people in the Global GG to be so kind and to offer their channel to do this. So thank you. And I introduce also to you Gianna Nobleza. Gianna is Academy Lead of Celtro, and she's so kind. And also Elisa she's Italian like me, and she's the project leader, manager leader of the project Celtro Italia. And so we could start. Meantime, if you have any question or would like to let us know if you are a teacher, if you're doing SEL activity in your class, or if you have only question to do, we are here to answer, okay? So let's start. I'm going to begin and share my screen, and here we are. So, an introduction to social and emotional learning. Social emotional learning is SEL, S-E-L. Only 3 words for a very amazing word of emotion and social things that we are going to discover. And what is social emotional learning? It's a set of competencies, and not only for students. Sometimes we think that they are only for students. They are for all the people, for teachers, for parents, for all of us. We have to develop and recognize our emotion, accept also our emotion, manage them, and also establish and maintain healthy relationship with others, with students, with other teachers, with parents, and show empathy. And how much is important self right now. After the lockdown, children, teachers came back to school. We came back on the 24th of September, and after all this time, I just focus on the SEL activities in my classroom. Kids need to talk, to have a real relationship with other students and with the teacher, and they need SEL activity in their classroom. So, what are the benefits of SEL? Reduction of behavior issue. Sometimes teachers feel overwhelmed in classroom because the classroom is so loud and they have age or other health issue. And with SEL activity, we have the chance to improve behavior of our students, to improve also their knowledge. They are ready to know, to learn, and to know the things that you are saying to them. And also, we have 93% of benefit about teachers, because she could really relate it to their students with other colleagues and feel the work not so stressful anymore. And then 11% of academic achievement, increase of academic achievement. So very important. Oh, this is a really famous wheel, the cases wheel, that show us the 5 competencies: self-awareness, self-management, social awareness, relationship skill, and responsible decision-making. Maybe you know them, the meaning. If you have an idea, you could write down in chat. And you have to remind that they are not separated words. They are all connected. And through this live, we show you how they are connected each to other. Okay, Gianna, it's your turn.
All right. So, hi, everyone. Welcome. I'm glad that you're here. So I'm going to talk a little bit about self-awareness. And when we talk about self-awareness, we're really talking about the basis of all of SEL. It's usually the first competency that we talk about, because if a student and a teacher can't understand themselves, they're going to have a hard time making decisions, relating with other people, with relationship skills and social awareness. So self-awareness is really important. And self-awareness is really the ability to identify our own emotions and our thoughts, and how those emotions and thoughts influence our behavior. It also takes into account things about our strengths and limitations, having confidence, and some growth mindset as well. So some of the smaller categories within the competency are over on that green rectangle there. So identifying emotions, accurate self-perception, recognizing strengths, self-confidence, and self-efficacy. So we would see this in students when they are feeling confident about assignments, or perhaps they're struggling in an area and they're able to ask for help from a teacher. That shows good self-awareness because they're recognizing their strengths and limitations. A student who is feeling a big emotion, if they can express that emotion of how they're feeling, that is self-awareness. They're able to understand the emotions that they're feeling inside their bodies. For teachers then, since SEL is for everyone, teachers are also important for self-awareness, because especially during COVID right now and distance learning, it's important for us teachers to understand the stress and the anxiety that is being placed on us, and what we're feeling because of all these new teaching techniques that we're using, and how that stress and anxiety affects our own behavior. So perhaps the behavior of our classroom management, or the way that we're teaching our lessons, or the balance that we have between being at home and being at school. So that self-awareness is really important, not just for students, but it's also carries on into adulthood with us teachers as well. So let's take a step back and talk a little bit about how self-awareness really interconnects with the other competencies as well. So if we're talking about who we are, navigating ourselves, navigating who we are and our emotions, the next logical step is self-management. Self-management is the way that we go about then regulating those emotions and those thoughts that we have, so that the behaviors end up being productive and effective for ourselves and for other people as well. So self-management is kind of that next step in self-awareness. Relationship skills then are really important and connected to self-awareness as well. If we can feel good about ourselves, if we're feeling confident, if we have self-efficacy, then we can enter into a healthy relationship and maintain that healthy relationship with other people. We can communicate with them. We can tell people when we need help. And we don't have to feel self-conscious about that, because we're feeling confident in who we are as an individual. Social awareness also connects to self-awareness very closely, because again, if we feel confident in who we are, and our students feel confident in who they are and what they believe, and they're feeling optimistic and confident, then when we encounter a situation with diverse perspectives and opinions that maybe are different from their own, the student doesn't have to feel like that's an assault on who they are, but instead they can be more open-minded. They can listen to the other opinions and be respectful of those. And then finally, with responsible decision-making, again, if students cannot understand how they're feeling, they can't identify that there's a problem, and then they can't solve that problem. So with self-awareness, it's really the basis of all social and emotional development. If we can have students knowing themselves and who they are, what their emotions are, and feeling confident in themselves, even in a growth mindset type of way, they're going to be able to build those other competency skills then as well. So let's take a look at what you might do to help build self-awareness in your classroom. So I know you can't read this very well, but you will get a copy of this at the end of the live stream when you fill out your feedback form. And this comes from the 3rd through 5th grade SEL student planner. And as you can see in the center there's a big iceberg. And the idea here for students to come away with is the fact that who they are is partly what other people see, but there's a huge chunk of who they are that people don't see. And that they are both of those parts. They are a whole being, and it's okay that people don't know everything about them, and that they can share the things about them that they feel comfortable sharing, but they don't need to share everything. And then the water that surrounds that iceberg is the environment. And so as teachers, we can start talking to our students about how our environments can affect who we are and how we navigate our own identity and what we want people to see and perhaps what kinds of things we hide as well. So even though this is for a 3rd through 5th grade classroom, it can easily be modified down to kindergarten and all the way back up to 12th grade to talk about our identity and how important that is in really who we are and understanding ourselves to connect with self-awareness.
Amazing, amazing. So,
Okay.
Elisa, your turn.
My turn. Let's talk about self-management because, as Jana was saying, it's often the next step right after self-awareness. This is because once we have identified ourselves and we are aware of ourselves, we can then use self-management as a sort of toolkit of, to just resolve any issues that there might be, or, just any situation that we need to deal with. We can use self-management. So something, as you can read here, it's the ability to regulate one's emotions, thoughts, and behaviors effectively in different situations. So one of the most common things that can happen to both teachers and students, and I'm sure many of you will agree with that, is that we have to deal with stress. Especially right now, I'm sure that many of you are dealing with a good amount of stress. So first we identify it with self-awareness. And once we are aware that there is a stressful situation and that we are feeling the stress, we can then turn to self-management, to our toolkit, to choose what to do. So for students, it can be taking a break from class, or if they're younger ones, they can go to their calming corner, or they can just rest their head on the desk for a few minutes. And for teachers, it can be using self-care activities and just, realizing that there is something that they need to do in order to overcome the stressful situation. One other situation that happens often is that students need to set goals for themselves. And that's very important, because they need to set realistic goals in particular, not just goals. And sometimes teachers need to do that too. So it can also happen that a student and a teacher might need to work together to set an achievable and attainable goal. And that's just how we can use self-management to really work on what we have to work with at the moment. Again, self-management, just like all the other competencies, relates very well to the other four, because just like what Filomena told you at the beginning, I will just repeat it for the people who just joined. The 5 castle competencies are usually represented on a wheel because they build on each other. They're not separate things that we can teach, on their own. They often overlap. So let's see, for example, let's go to the next one. Again, it interrelates to all the other four. Self-awareness, just like what we said right now, it's if you're not aware of what's going on and what's happening within yourself, you cannot use the tools to solve them. Relationship skills, again, because one of the tools that you can often use when you have to overcome a situation is others. So let's think about a student. They might go and turn to someone, to a trusted adult, for help. So that is a tool that they know how to use if they have self-management, if they internalize that competency. And again, responsible decision making and social awareness, very similar to that and what we said with self-awareness. They all really, one cannot live without others. So they're all very important and they need to coexist. So we will show you, again, for each of the 5 competencies, we selected an activity from our planners. Don't worry if you cannot read it right now. We will give all the resources to you at the end. We'll give you the link where you can download them and you can use them right away in your classroom. And this is an activity about listening to your body. Now, the way this is structured is for kids, but you can just adapt the language and use it with your older students if you want to. And this is just an activity that helps you recognize what your body is telling you. So, what are the signals? Is your temperature rising? Is your heart pounding? And what happens to your body when you're in different situations? And how can you listen to your body? And how do these signals can tell you something and can actually help you to identify what is going on? So that's a very nice activity that, it's very helpful with little kids, but also with adults, because I think most of these activities are very helpful for teachers too. I always have fun and sometimes try some of these myself, so I can guarantee you that they work.
Yes. Okay, my turn now, and I will talk about relationship skills. This is so important for me because sometimes, usually one per week, I do circle time in my classroom. And during the circle time, there is one key word: listening. You have to listening because sometimes a student just want to talk and they all talking over without respecting other opinion or other time to talk. So the first word, the key word for circle time in order to build up a relationship is listening. And if you listen, you could communicate. And the communication is from one point to other point and return. And it's so important also for a relation between teacher and student, because sometimes also teachers don't listen to their kids. And so for me as teacher and for parents, this is so important. You have to improve your relationship skill, not only for students, but for teacher, for parents. But imagine in a couple, husband and wife, sometimes they don't communicate well, and this could be an issue for the children. And then the children go to school and they can't communicate their feelings, their bad feeling about their parents, and so everything is going down. So every relation needs to be an empathic relation. You have to listen to understand the other, and to do this, you have also to understand yourself, your feelings, recognize your feelings, so you can relate to others. And in this relationship skill, you have to write on your resume when you apply for a job, because it's so important when you start a new job. uh, you are are you able to relate to other people in a good way, not from another point of view, not from a lower point of view, at the same level. It's so important in order to build a good teamwork. And as my Jana and Elisa, sorry, I told you the pronunciation in English.
Version. It's fine.
Sometimes I have to switch my languages in my mind. So when we talk about relationship skill, we have to remember they are connected. We already say it maybe 5 times already, but it's so important to understand. If you don't know yourself and you don't improve your empathy, you don't recognize if you are angry or sad, you can't relate in the best way with other people. And so social management and social awareness are so important to build up a relationship. And also when you are teamwork, for example, or when you are teacher and you have to calm down your student, or do something in your class because they are arguing about something, you have to be responsible decision making. But you have also to teach to students how could they do this alone. They have to raise their responsibility in the social environment. And for that, we suggest this activity. Like I said, you can think at a circle time with all the students. Maybe not now with the distance, social distance, but we could do. I usually do sit down in a circle, and also outside in the garden. Let's talk about a topic, and I have the question for you, and then we start the conversation. It's so important for children. So what is a best friend? Who is your best friend? Why this student could be your best friend? Why this is your best friend? Um, what is the beginning of popular girl or popular boy? It's so important to you to be popular, to have so many followers, and other things like that. Okay. So
Luis,
awareness.
Luis had a question, a good one. He said, "Does one ever know oneself?" And I think it's right. We don't ever know ourselves, and this is why self-awareness is very important, because it's an ongoing process. There is never an end goal, and every time you discover something new about yourself, so it's something to keep on going through our whole lives.
Yes, and also we have to remember, in the chat there is Stephanie Rothstein. Thank you, Stephanie, to pass by. She is amazing, and we are going to organize a session on GED Italia about her project that it's called Can We Talk? And through this form, you can discover if you are green, blue, orange, or gold. And so you have the particular characteristic of your behavior and so on. And we have a talk about this, and we say that sometimes during your life, during the year, maybe also during the month, you can also raise your color above another. You are okay, you know yourself, but sometimes you can go down and up with your emotion. And so thank you, Stephanie. So you know yourself, maybe some feelings are going up and down. Okay. Thank you, Luis, for the question.
Okay,
So
well,
social awareness, it's your turn, Elisa.
Jenna.
Yeah, so I'll move to social awareness. So Philomena just talked about relationships. And in the relationship skills competency, we're looking more at smaller groups or within the classroom or within your family. And social awareness really broadens that to talk about your whole entire community or the global community as a whole. So the ability to take perspective of and empathize with others, especially from a diverse background of cultures. And so As we're talking about social awareness, it's important for students and teachers to have those relationship skills built up already. If they are feeling, if they are working as a team, they can ask questions, if they can communicate, then the next step is really building on that social awareness of being able to respect people who have differing views than you do, appreciating diversity, and being okay with people having different ideas than you or people being different than you. So social awareness really is encompassing of kind of the global community and how we can get students, even from elementary school years, to see themselves as part of kind of a global society, and becoming a global citizen of the world. And so we might see this in students. If a student has a very strong sense of social awareness, they're the student in class who's going to immediately make friends with the new kid in class, right? Pull them into their group, and make them feel like they belong. The sense of belonging that we create in our classroom helps students to develop social awareness. So when we make sure that our classroom is culturally responsive, that it's equitable in all of our learning environments, those things are going to help our students to feel safe and to feel secure, so that when they end up encountering opinions that are different than theirs, they won't feel like that's an assault on who they are, what they believe, but instead they can start listening with an open mind and developing those perspective taking techniques and skills, and being empathetic with other people. And then, of course, us teachers have a huge responsibility to create that classroom climate, whether it's in person or if we're distance learning right now, to help make sure that all of our students feel like they belong. And so if we're thinking kind of at a basic level of social awareness with teaching, we want to start making sure that our students feel comfortable. That's partly what Philomena was talking about with relationships with students and building those relationships and building that community in your classroom. But going that step further and making sure that everyone is being included and there's not any exclusivity within our classroom. It's then going that the next step is really being culturally responsive. So remembering that our students come from a wide variety of backgrounds, and even if they look similar to each other, everyone has a different story, and they're coming to class with a different story as well. And so us as teachers can be socially, can show that social awareness by recognizing those things and being empathetic to our students, recognizing that we're not all at the same place. And then even going further to talking about equitable learning environments. I'm here in the United States. I live in the Minneapolis area, and there is a lot of racial tension going on in our country. And so it's really important that as teachers, we start looking at our curriculum. We look at our schools and our district and what is being put in place systematically that needs to be changed to create a more equitable environment for all of our students. And perhaps that is with our curriculum. So you can be looking at your curriculum and seeing what kinds of things in your curriculum are maybe not culturally responsive or are not being shown in an equitable way for your students. And that can help them feel that sense of belonging, which then in turn helps them develop their social awareness skills. So if we take a look at the next slide about the connections again, we can see that connection with relationship skills because when students are able to find trust in one person and and maintain that trust with a friendship, they're able to then expand that to a much larger community with social awareness. If students feel connected to who they are and they feel confident in themselves with self-awareness, they can then in turn be open-minded in the sense that we need them to be for being socially aware. If they are able to make good decisions, then they can be respectful. Maybe they feel an intense emotion when someone says something that disagrees with their stance, but they're able to make that decision to be respectful. And then same with self-management. They have the tools in their toolbox in order to manage and regulate their emotions and their thoughts so that they can be open-minded and appreciate that diversity in their classroom.
Isabel said that, I'm sorry, Jana, that she's doing a mindfulness course. And I just wanted to just quickly say that SEL is a wide umbrella, let's say, think of it like that, that also includes things like mindfulness and many other practices like yoga or mindful breathing or practices that you might already know. They are just, included in a wider frame. And sometimes you really understand why you're doing that and why you're, for example, doing yoga or how that can help you. So it's just a frame for a lot of things.
Yeah, definitely.
Okay,
That's a great transition, I feel like, to responsible decision making. So we'll get there in just a minute, but I'll finish up with social awareness. Here's an example. Again, you'll get this in the packet at the end of the presentation when you do your feedback form. This was created by one of the SEL Trove authors, Hayam El-Sahardi, and the goal is for that connection between self-awareness and social awareness. So when we can value ourselves, we can value others as well. So she goes through a high school example of talking about valuing others and then doing an exercise where we look at ourselves and what kinds of things we value, and then sharing that out with our class so that students can feel confident in who they are, and then also listen to all the students around them of all the different things that are valuable in their classmates. So. All right.
that's a really cute one. Yeah. I love them all.
Yeah, so I love the idea of mindfulness. I've taken a couple of mindfulness classes as well, and mindfulness is a great way to talk to students about responsible decision making. I know throughout the presentation we've talked about each of the five, or we are talking about each of the five competencies in a series, and that even though we're talking about their connections, I think it's important to remember that when we're talking about responsible decision making, we won't ever be able to focus just on responsible decision making with our students, because when we're talking about responsible decision making, we're talking about all the other things, all the other competencies that come into that as well. And so the idea of mindfulness and mindful breathing is great for self-management, which then translates to responsible decision making, which of course you can probably tell from the competency title is about making good decisions. And when we make good decisions, we need to be able to first identify the problem, analyze the situation, and then be able to solve it. We do that through evaluating and reflecting, and we do that by taking into account our own ethical responsibility, making sure that our well-being and the well-being of others around us are taken into account. A lot of times I like to think of responsible decision-making kind of in a strand within social emotional learning, where we've got self-awareness, so we understand who we are, then we move on to our toolkit, self-management, and then finally, because of our toolkit, we're able to make those responsible decisions. So the ability to make those constructive choices. Yeah.
And it's really hard.
It
It's
is.
probably one of the, it's really hard to make a responsible decision for students and teachers sometimes. So
Yeah.
yeah, self-awareness. Ona Preshma says self-awareness is so important for adults and children. That's true. Let's just quickly remind ourselves that it's important. All of these are very important for ourselves, like teachers, adults in general. I'm sure we all know, people who would totally benefit from some of these activities. So yeah, it's something that we should talk more about and share more whenever we get the chance to.
Yeah. I think that it is so important. I've had preschoolers and can see um, their decision-making process. For example, if they are having a big temper tantrum, being able to say, I'm so mad, and taking a breath and saying, Mommy, can you help me? Or teacher, can you help me? So that's an easy way to see self-awareness, self-management, and responsible decision-making all being played out in like a 2-year-old.
True.
And then we can see the exact same kind of, I mean, not same because we're not going to get a temper tantrum in the same way as a 2-year-old when we have a 17 or 18-year-old, but it's the same kind of process. And so being able to reflect on that. And then as teachers too, when we're able to identify problems and perhaps the lesson that we just did, and then reflect on, well, what's the next logical step? That lesson didn't work. My students didn't understand it. What am I going to do next? That is us continuing to develop our decision-making skills then as well. So, yeah.
Yeah,
And
absolutely.
it all connects together as well. They're all connected, as we talked about before. Philomena, if you go to the next slide, can just remind everyone that, again, it's cyclical. And so we're continuing to work on these things all together. So with your having students do some reflection on an assignment that they did, not only are they reflecting, which is responsible decision making, but they're thinking about their strengths and limitations, which is self-awareness. So those are all
Yeah.
interconnected.
Yeah, we have the last activity that we're going to show here.
Yeah, this comes also from high school self planner. And right now, our students might be distance learning and on technology a lot. And so this is a great activity for students to do to reflect on the technology that they are using and taking a break from that technology and connecting with people in person or over the phone or in some other way other than staring at a screen.
Yeah. Okay.
So, question.
It's time for the questions. Don't be shy.
No,
You
no
can ask
worry.
us anything. If you just joined, we talked about the 5 castle competencies of, should we just repeat them real quick? Okay, so they are self-awareness, self-management, social awareness, relationship skills, and responsible decision making. These are the 5 core competencies. We have the activities that we showed you are from our planners, the Self planners, student planners. And you can find them, if you're interested, you can find them in both physical copies and ebook version if you're distance learning and you cannot have physical copies of planners right now. And there are activities for each grade level, so not just for kids, but up until 12th grade. And yeah, you can learn a lot more about these and for yourself and for your students, not just for your students. So if you'd like to know.
Yes, I relate very well with Onap Shreshma. Sorry if I don't pronounce it that well, that your name well, but now we are going, some school are going to do distance learning, and how we could use SEL in distance learning is the same efficacy for this approach, or yeah, we have to change something.
Jenna, do you want?
Yeah, I was going to talk about the distance learning connections, and then Stephanie, I want to get to your question as well with high school, since that is kind of my specialty. But when I teach online, one of the things I really like to do to build connection is to have lunch with the students once a week. And so I keep our class going, and students who want to can eat lunch with me. And so in a way, it creates that community because there's no content that I'm going through. Most of the time, the kids actually ignore me and talk to each other through the video. But in that sense, then I'm able to hear what they're talking about. I can partly participate in their conversations, and it just helps build that community in our classroom outside of the actual distance learning lesson. So you might need to modify that, but that's something that I do that ends up working out really well. So I get to know the students outside of just class.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, sorry, go ahead, Lisa.
No. I was just thinking there are many tips that we are going to share, even like on social media, the Self page and Facebook. You can find us there. But one particular that I can remember right now was this teacher, John. I think you shared it too, and he just explained, like, it was something very simple, but that I think most teachers can do. So when you're teaching virtual lessons, and there is something happening on the screen that is out of the ordinary. So let's say you see a student pet walking, in front of the screen, or you see a sibling in the background, maybe crying, or maybe just, passing by. You can just take a note of what happened, and then you can ask the student later. You can take this as a way to start a conversation with a student and get to know them a little bit better. And this is for relationship skills between teacher and student, which I think are also very important, not just the ones between students.
Yeah. And for curriculum, I think that is always a question that teachers are asking of how can we implement SEL when we already have so much going on in our curriculum? And so I think the answer is to integrate it in a way that it isn't separate, right? So instead of having a totally separate lesson for 10 minutes, I mean, that takes 10 minutes out of your day or 5 minutes out of your day. If we do an exit slip, so asking students even to reflect on what went well today, I mean, that's part of self-awareness, right? Seeing our strengths and our limitations. Or including something in a rubric. So if you have students who are doing an essay or they're doing a project with other people, you can add in a relationship skills competency as one of the things that you grade students on. Hopefully that all the students will just get the points, but it's a subtle reminder to students that teamwork is important or good communication is important. So adding that into your rubric as, an extra 1 or 2 points is another way to integrate that. I teach English literature in high school, so it's fairly easy to add a discussion question about predicting what we think the main character's decisions are going to be in the next chapter, or being open-minded in a class discussion. But those are some of the ways that we can facilitate SEL without having it be something extra.
Yeah, I think Sorry?
No, I was going to say, what other ideas do you guys have?
No, I was thinking sometimes it's easier if you have the chance to start from the content. So obviously, probably literature is the easiest one because you start, even for kids, you just start from a story, a book, and then you start from there to talk about a specific competency or more than one if you want to. But I'm thinking maybe even if you, I don't know, let's say you are teaching science and you want to talk about a specific person that, you know, has some was important during history or even history itself. And then you start from there. Maybe you can talk to your students about what was the social context in which this person grew up and what would have happened if, I don't know, they were treated differently or they grew up in a different place. So you can start from, I think, content, even if you're not teaching literature. You just have to be a little creative with that. But I think it's possible without, as Jana said, because if we think about it as as a separate lesson, it can be intimidating because there's no time. We know that there's no time to finish everything the curriculum asked for and do something extra. So we understand that. There was another question.
I would like to add something related to
Sure.
my experience. That was the most important thing when I was deciding my challenge for innovator. Sometimes when I do cell activity in my classroom and a colleague, another teacher come in and look my children do meditation or do a synchro time or do other strange things. They 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 told me always, but why? Have you time to do these things? I have to do math lesson. And so I would like to let other teachers understand that if you do spell activity, you don't waste your time. You improve the knowledge. Because if children feel comfortable in the classroom with you, they learn better in less time. They need less time to learn what are you saying. If you go in the classroom and without selectivity, without asking them how are you, talk me about yesterday, what did you do, anything. If you don't build up your relation with kids, they don't listen to you. And you could do 1 hour of the best math lesson, they won't learn. This is my point. If you do cell activity, if you raise empathy with children, if you go breaking ball with a breaking ball, the sometimes teachers do the wall. Now think that there is a wall between student and teacher. There's no wall. You are at their level, and then when they realize that, when they connect with you in that way, they will listen so well that all you are saying in your lesson, they will learn. I assure that. I assure that. So, integrating cell in your lesson, it's not a waste of time. Otherwise, on the contrary, you have to raise behavior and knowledge. I promise you.
That's very true. I think it applies to adults as well. The main underlying concept now is that when we are working in an environment where we feel safe and, I don't know, we have a good relationship with our colleagues, we are more willing to work and we work better. Same goes for students. If they feel safe and they will learn better. So yeah, Filomena is a living example of that.
Yes, I am so passionate about this topic. Is Leah Lewis. This is my my challenge for the Innovator Academy. Then the project build up other things and raise. Thank you also to Celtro. And but the first question is this: I how could I increase self approach in classroom? How could I
Yeah.
convince other teachers to do that? So yeah.
Yeah, especially here. I'm saying like Filomena. Obviously, Jana applies this too very well, but I'm saying Filomena because we know that in Italy there is still some more resistance, and there's a lot more knowledge to spread around cell. So
Okay, thank you, Onap. My friend. Yes, there is.
No connection, no learning.
Mm-hmm.
Oh
Yeah.
yes. Oh, the great point. Great point. We say that at the beginning. SEL it's not only for students. We have to do also in staff meeting as well. Right. You're totally right, Onap.
Jenna,
Totally.
have you ever done, like, do you want to share?
Well, I taught IB, high school English. It looked like one of you here, maybe Stephanie, taught in the IB program too. So I did quite a few workshops for at the state level, and we always did some learner profile, SEL kind of related warm ups to kind of get to know each other, so that there would be a lot more sharing of ideas. Because it's always better when there's more minds than just mine.
Yeah. Yeah, they work for adults too. I told you.
Yep.
So I start to copy and paste the link of form. What do you think?
Yes, I think it's
Yeah.
about
Yes.
time.
Gerardo,
So
Gerardo,
after,
you're right. We always do psychology, right? We always do. Okay, Stephanie, I went to an IB school, but I don't know. I share the same thinking pathway. Right. So I paste in the chat the link for of the form. You can fill the form, answer the question, and at the end you will receive the certificate and the resources that we show before during the live session.
yeah, there is a link where you can download the resources, but don't forget to also submit your form, because the link will open in another tab, but you still have to submit the form to get the certificate. So don't forget to do that.
Oh, Onap, I love your question. They are so good because sometimes we forgot to say something, and this is so amazing from you. How could teachers that are interested in SEL approach could connect with us in order to improve their knowledge? Jana.
So actually, I didn't say this in the social awareness. I had meant to, but we have a SEL-focused online teacher course. And we have created a huge resource of videos and course materials that go through all the competencies with some fantastic, knowledgeable guest speakers. So that would be a great next step after this presentation is to go there. It's www.seltrove.net. And you can subscribe to one of the SEL courses. There is one for teachers for preschool through 5th grade, and another course for middle school and high school teachers that really go through some best practices for implementing these. And each of the courses have over 30 printable lessons in them that you can use in your classroom as well. So that's another great resource for teachers specifically.
Yeah, they are in English right now, but we are working for you, Italian people.
We are. We absolutely are. But in the meantime, if you're not Italian, you can follow the Seltrove Facebook page. So you can also find updates there. If you are Italian and you prefer finding resources in Italian, we have an Italian Seltrove page, Facebook page. So you can just find it at Seltrove Italy on Facebook. So yeah.
Okay, I just pasted the comment, the link. If you would like to follow us,
Right. Yeah.
yeah, it would be great to create the greatest connection of SEL teachers in the world. In order to relationship skill.
Exactly. talking about relation, and then we can all grow together with our relationship skills and improve together.
I love it.
Yeah.
Okay, so if you have no more question, we say thank you to Global GLG and to all the people in the chat that say and pass by and ask questions. Thank you also to Luis for the certificate help, because he's the king of spreadsheets. So I asked help yesterday and he quickly responds me. So thank you, Luis. And thank you to Jana and to Elisa. You know that I am so lucky to have found you and connect with you, and and I can't wait to connect with all the people that are, yes, better together, male, yes, and to find all the people interesting in my topic for my innovator project, because I need tester right now. So thank you. Bye.
Thank